Hi, I'm Zoe Francois from Zoe Bakes, and welcome to my kitchen. Today we are making my very favorite carrot cake with candied carrot peels. It's such a showstopper. You're gonna love it, and it's so much fun to make. So here we go. Carrot cake is the first cake that I can remember. As a kid in the probably 70s would be my first memory of a carrot cake. And I was living on a commune, and of course, a cake would have to have a vegetable in it to be sanctioned for consumption on a commune. And it was probably made with either the maple syrup that we gathered and made on the commune, or honey that we also gathered and made. Well, the bees made it, but we collected it. No sugar, whole wheat flour for sure, very healthy, a little bit earnest, and probably not that delicious, but it was a cake, so I probably loved it. This is an ode to that, but delicious and sweeter and chock full of flavor. Graham, this is one of your favorites, isn't it?
Yeah.
To put you on the spot. Everybody loves this cake. So yeah, if you have that 1970s carrot cake in your head and you don't think you like carrot cake, try this one. You're gonna love it. So it's super easy. You don't need a mixer. It's just a stand and stir. Big bowl. I'm gonna start with, I'm gonna start with my dry ingredients. I have flour. I'm just using all-purpose flour. No whole wheat, maybe because it gives me PTSD to have a super, super healthy carrot cake. This is not like a health food. This is a delicious cake. So I have all-purpose flour, my leaveners, which I'm using both baking soda and baking powder so that we get a nice rise on this and it's not too heavy and dense and stodgy. And then all the spices. I mean, I feel like you have to have that pop of flavor. So we have cinnamon, ginger, clove, nutmeg. All of that goes in. That's my poodle. All of that goes in with the flour. I'm just gonna whisk that all together until it's blended. A hint of salt. You wanna make sure that you have salt in your recipe. Otherwise, it just tastes flat. So if you leave the salt out, you just don't get the depth of flavor. You won't taste it. It's not gonna be a salty cake, but you've gotta have the salt in there. And I give you a measurement. You don't have to do it by feel. Whisk that all together. And now I'm gonna blend together all of the wet ingredients. So I have my eggs. Oh, I should mention that I'm doing a half batch because it's just Graham and I here. And so I don't need a giant cake, although I could bring it to my neighbors. And because I already baked one to show you. So this is a half batch. I'll show you the pans that I'm gonna bake it in so that I have a nice cake. But just so when you go to make it, you'll realize that this is a small batch. Okay, so in goes my eggs. And my sugar. I have both brown sugar and granulated sugar so that my cake tastes like cake and it's nice and sweet. And then oil. You can use any kind of sort of neutral flavored oil that you typically use for cooking. Whatever one works for you. Avocado oil. You want to, if you used an olive oil, you'll have that taste to it. It will probably be delicious, but that's up to you. Okay, my oil goes in. Just whisking as we go. some zest of an orange. I like to do this at the last second so that the zest has all of the flavor and that perfuminess to it. If you do it ahead of time, the oils dry out and you won't get as much flavor. I'm using a micro zester so that I'm just getting the flavor off of the top of it and not getting down into the bitter pith. So a nice micro plain zester, a hit of vanilla, of course. You can watch my vanilla extract video if you don't already make your own. A glug of that goes in. Whisk it all together. So now the star of the show, the carrots. So you can use large shreds of the carrots, so straight off of the box grater or your food processor, or you can pulse them in the food processor and get them super, super fine. Clearly my poodle has an opinion about this. Either way works. If you do it really finely, you're gonna have a much more even texture and color to the cake. If you leave them in shreds, you'll see them in the cake. So either way, they both work. That goes into our bowl. Mix them all in. Okay, so this doesn't start getting caught up into my whisk. I'm gonna switch. You can either use a rubber spatula to stir it, or you can actually use a Danish dough whisk, which is great for thick batters. I use it for bread dough and for thicker cakes. So you can use your Danish dough whisk to get in there and stir everything together. And because the tines aren't so close together, all of your ingredients won't get stuck in there. So the carrots go in. You can also throw in your coconut. I'm using sweetened coconut because, again, I want this to be a cake. I want it to be delicious. If you use desiccated, unsweetened coconut, you can see this has some moisture to it. If you're using a coconut that doesn't have any sugar added to it, you want to add it to the batter as soon as possible so that it can absorb some of the moisture from the batter. Stir that in. And now I can add my dry ingredients. In goes my dry ingredients. And I'm just gonna stir that together until it's all incorporated. Okay, and then I'm gonna add my dried fruit. You can add any kind of dried fruit that you want. I'm using raisins and apricots and dried cherries. You can do that combination. You can add craisins. You can also add nuts to it. So whatever you want, just use the same amounts of it so that it doesn't get to be too much in there. Otherwise, you'll just change the consistency of the cake. And that's it. We are done. We've made carrot cake. Now we need to bake it. Like I said, this is a half batch. So I am baking it in 3 6-inch rounds instead of the 8-inch pans. I think this is like the perfect size cake for 2 people. And we'll have this for a few days. Carrot cake is one of those brilliant cakes that actually gets even better the second day, so you don't have to eat it right away. It also freezes really well. You can freeze these layers. Okay, so into our pans. Oh, before I do this last pan, I should tell you that I grease the pans and then I line them with parchment paper rounds. You can either cut the rounds out of a sheet of parchment or just buy pre-cut parchment rounds, which is what I do because my time is important to me. And so I think it's just a great thing to have around are these rounds. Okay, into our pan. And then I just kind of eyeball it to get them all even. If you really want to, you can weigh them on your kitchen scale and make sure they have exactly the same amount. But I'm generally pretty close. Let's see how that goes. I'll just use an offset baby spatula to even them out, and then I can adjust. If one, like this one, has way more. And yeah, okay, that looks really good. They all look about the same. And then I'm just gonna thwack them onto the counter to get them to spread out. Any air bubbles will come out of them. You don't wanna do that with all cakes because you don't wanna knock air out of all cakes, but with this one, doing this a few times will help. Great, into the oven they go. I like to bake them on a baking sheet so that they're easier to get in and out of the oven, and they have a tiny bit of insulation on the bottom. The 3 6-inch layers will fit on one baking sheet. If you're baking the 8-inch size, they won't fit on a baking sheet, so you'll just have to do them in the oven without the baking sheet. While my cakes are baking, I'm gonna make the frosting. The reason that I do it this far ahead, because the cakes have to obviously come out, they have to cool before I can frost them, but I like to make the frosting ahead of time because sometimes cream cheese frosting is a little bit loose and it needs to go into the refrigerator and set up a little bit before I can use it. You can even make this the day ahead and let it refrigerate overnight, and that will give it some more body and make it easier to use in case your frosting tends to come out a little bit soft. But I'm gonna walk you through it and hopefully avoid having to do that at all. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is start out with room temperature butter in my bowl, and I'm just going to put that onto my backward machine here. I'm using the paddle attachment. I like to use one that has this rubber edge to it because that scrapes the bowl. I am going to scrape this bowl a whole lot of times, and using this paddle attachment with the rubber edge just means that I have to do it slightly less. Okay, so on it goes. I'm just going to mix the butter up so that it doesn't have lumps in it. I want it to be nice and smooth. Okay. As you can see, all of the butter is sticking to the paddle, which means it's not getting smooth in the bowl. So I have to use my rubber spatula. I'm going to scrape the sides of the bowl. I'm going to scrape the paddle because I don't want any lumps of butter in my frosting. So I want to make sure that it's all getting nice and smooth before I add my cream cheese. Okay, so back into the bowl. Here we go. Okay, one more time. Scrape everything. You can see that it's not clinging to the paddle as much. It's all getting mixed up in there, but I want to scrape it off the sides of the bowl one more time and just make sure it's really nice and soft. Okay. And all the way down to the bottom of that bowl, because that's where the butter wants to hang out. Okay, it's looking really soft and good now, so I can add my cream cheese. But before I do that, I'm gonna scrape all of this off of the bowl. And in goes my cream cheese. The goal here is that your butter and your cream cheese should be the same consistency so that they blend together. Typically, the cream cheese is gonna get very soft if it's room temperature. And in fact, if it's very, very warm in your kitchen, you can do this with cold cream cheese. So warm butter, you can't do it with cold butter. It has to be room temperature butter so that it gets nice and smooth. But if it's very warm in your kitchen and the cream cheese is just liquefying, use cold cream cheese and it will come together just as well. Okay, but it's not that warm in here today, so I let my cream cheese come to room temperature. I'm gonna put that all in at once and then let that stir together. Okay, just until it starts to come together, and then I'm gonna scrape down the bowl. I don't wanna over mix this, but it is looking like they're blending together, and so that's perfect. Exactly what I was going for. Butter and cream cheese coming together as one. I'm doing all of this before I add the sugar. I want these two things to marry together before the sugar is added. But that looks terrific. Okay, now in goes the sugar. A little bit of vanilla, just a tiny bit. We don't want to be adding too much liquid to this, but we do want to add a little bit of flavor. Touch of vanilla. If you want a little bit of lemon extract, I like the sweet, but also the tanginess. You'll get a little bit of that from the cream cheese, but I think adding just a hint, tiny, tiny, tiny hint of lemon extract and a little bit of fresh lemon if you like. Just a little bit. Like I said, I don't want to add too much liquid to this. Then I'm adding a tiny, tiny bit of Lyle's golden syrup. This is just a little hint of like a caramely flavor to it. Again, not too much liquid. I'm going to add this together and I'm just going to stir it until it comes together on low. If the powdered sugar starts to fly all over the place, do it in like a pulsing motion. So turn it on and then off, on and off as it flies all over. On and off until, and now once the sugar and butter come together, then you can turn the machine on and it won't fly all over the place. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just going to do this until it comes together. I don't want to over mix it. And then I'm going to scrape down the bottom because that sugar fell down and is clinging to the bottom of the bowl, and I want to make sure all of my ingredients are mixed together and that there's no lumps. So down to the very, very bottom of the bowl, get all of that goodness back into the mixture. And then same with the paddle attachment, making sure that all of that cream cheese, butter, and sugar and all the flavors are together. Looks great. Okay. Okay, and then a few more spins and we should be good to go. Ta-da, we're done. And look at this. It has enough body to it. I hope you can see that it's going to stick to our cake and not sort of drip off. Sometimes cream cheese frosting can be very thin. The trick is getting the temperatures right and also not over mixing. So this looks terrific. I don't even need to put it into the refrigerator. And now I'm ready to put it onto my carrot cake. My cakes are cooled, my frosting is made, and now we need to assemble our carrot cake. I have very detailed videos on how to frost a cake that you can check out on my YouTube channel. So I'm gonna move through this pretty quickly, but one thing is that you can see I'm using a cake turner. This is actually a pottery wheel, but I love it for cake decorating. It's super smooth and sturdy, and it works great for this job. I will link to it below. Then I am using a cardboard round to build the cake so that I can move it around. You can also do this right on the serving plate, but I find it's easier to handle if you're doing it on a cardboard round. Before I go, I have a wet paper towel that I will put down here that will prevent this all from sliding around and dancing off of the turntable. And then it's time to go. My cakes are cooled. The first thing that you want to do is peel off that parchment paper. You do not want parchment in your cake, so make sure you peel that off. Center it as best you can. It just makes it easier. And then I'm gonna use a metal cake decorating spatula to put my frosting on. I'm gonna put a nice layer in between, maybe 1/4 of an inch of frosting in between to glue everything together. And also I love cream cheese frosting. For me, this is, you know, as important as the cake. And just spread that around. Add your next layer. Peel the parchment off. Add the next layer to it. Whoop. And then repeat. That's a nice tall cake. Remember, this is a half batch of my carrot cake recipe from Zoebakes Cakes. And it's a great size for a small party or the two of us. You can see that the cream cheese frosting has enough body that it's not squishing out when I add the cake layers. And this is a pretty hearty cake, so it's got some heft to it. So you really want to make sure that your frosting has enough body to hold the weight of the cake. And now I'm going to decorate the outside. Again, I have detailed videos on how to do that on my YouTube channel. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. Okay. There, my cake is covered in the cream cheese. I'm actually going to be decorating this with candied carrot peels. So it's okay if it's not absolute perfection. The other thing that you could do is press coconut all over the cake, which is beautiful and classic, or nuts, or you can just leave it as is au naturel. But I'm gonna be adding candied carrot peels to it. So I'm going to transfer this now to the cake stand. Let me show you how I do that, because people get a little nervous about moving a cake. The first thing that I want to do is make sure that I'm not going to lift the cake up and leave some of the icing on my cake turner. So I'm just going to take the blade of my decorating spatula and make sure that the frosting is not stuck to the turner. Then I'm going to use the blade. Make sure that it's a nice sturdy one. So if the one that you're using is too flexible and it can't carry the weight of your cake, then use something that's a little bit more sturdy. You can use a regular old spatula that you would use for pancakes or whatever. But then there's also this. This is a tool that is made specifically for this purpose. This one's a little bit overkill because it's huge. This would be great for an 8, 9, 10-inch cake. For this tiny little 6-inch cake, I don't really need it, but man, is this helpful for giving you some confidence in lifting your cake off of the turner and transporting it, because it's very sturdy and it's the right size. For this little 6-inch, I'm just gonna go with a spatula, and I'm going to sort of push it with the spatula off of the cake turner onto my hand, just like that. And then position it onto the stand and then shimmy the cake off of there and make sure you get the paper towel with it. You don't want to leave that on there. I mean, I guess you could if it's hidden, but you don't want to see the paper towel. And that's it. Okay, this is a trick that I came up with when I was making a carrot cake, and I had a pile of carrot peels sitting on the counter, and they just captured my imagination. And I realized I was throwing out a huge pile of beautiful carrot peels. What you want to do is wash your carrots, use organic ones, wash the carrot, and then use a really, really sharp carrot peeler and press as hard as you can so that you're getting really meaty, thick carrot peels. And as long and continuous as possible. So obviously this would be your first step before you even start making your cake, is you're gonna do these carrot peels as you're prepping the carrots for your cake. Pressing as hard as you can so you get some body to the peel. Okay, that looks great. See how long and beautiful they are? And then the next thing that you're gonna need is simple syrup. This is just equal parts sugar and water, cooked until the syrup is translucent. There's no sign of any sugar left in there, no crystals left in there. It's gonna be hot, straight off of the stove. You can make it ahead and then just reheat it. And then you're gonna throw those carrot peels gently into your simple syrup and just let them sit. What's gonna happen is the carrots are gonna replace some of their own water content with the syrup and become basically candy. So I don't wanna cook them in there. Otherwise, the carrots will become too soft and you won't be able to handle them. They'll just sort of break apart. So I'm just letting them sit in the hot syrup until they've absorbed some of that syrup. So really, once this becomes like room temperature or cools down a little bit, it doesn't take much to do it. Maybe even, 10, 15 minutes in there. Having said that, I'm going to do it right now so you don't have to wait the 10 or 15 minutes to watch this. This syrup is going to be quite hot, so when you do it, you'll let it cool down so you're not plunging your fingers into boiling hot syrup, which is not an awesome thing to do. And then what I want to do, this is already softened up. I can already feel that these carrots feel good and ready to go. Very, very gently squeegee that excess syrup off of them so that they're not dripping wet. And I'm laying them out flat on a silicone mat. This is really important because the silicone mat, almost nothing will stick to it. So when you go to take these off after you've dehydrated them in your oven, they will come off more easily. If you were to do this on parchment paper, they would just glue to the parchment paper and become very difficult to get off. So use a Silpat. I'm just lining them up. You want to make extra. Use as many as you can because you will have some that break. It's okay because they're delicious, so you can just eat them, but you want to have as many intact to put on the edge of your cake as possible. So do make a ton extra. Okay, that's it. Okay, I'm gonna slide this onto my baking sheet. I'm going into a 200-degree oven. I'm gonna let them dry out for about an hour. You can go in and check them. If they still feel really wet, then let them go for another half an hour. It kind of depends on your oven and how thick the peels are. And then turn off the oven and just let them dehydrate. Leave the oven light on, and that will continue to dehydrate them. This can take a couple of hours. You can do this and leave them in there overnight, however works best for your cake. So into the oven they go. Okay, so my carrot peels are dehydrated. To get I realized that I had loosened them all up and didn't show you how, but I'm gonna use a very thin offset spatula, and you basically just run it under. I really packed these on this sheet. Run it under the carrot peel to loosen it. You don't want to just pick them up, otherwise they'll crack. But look at how beautiful. And because they're so thin and delicate, so you will lose some in the process, which is why I had you make extra. But they are candied, they're crunchy, they're delicious, they're beautiful, and you can just press them right onto your cake for a beautiful, dramatic finish to your carrot cake. It's so cool. Look at that. It's like a crown of candied carrot peels. Who'd have thunk it? Well, I guess I did. It's so dramatic. It's so beautiful. It's so much fun. It is a showstopper. Okay, this is the best part. We get to cut into it and eat it. This one's still a little bit warm. I didn't refrigerate it. This is actually a cake that does very well being refrigerated. This is made just a tiny bit more difficult because I have a poodle under my feet here. Okay. Here it is. Look at all those beautiful layers and all of the carrot and dried fruit and coconut. It smells incredible. It looks incredible. You can see inside there. And our piece. Yum. That is so good. I love this carrot cake. I hope you do too. So I hope you bake it. If you do, show me pictures. You can go on to Instagram and post your pictures and just tag me so I can see what you're creating. That's true of all of my recipes. I love to see what people are making. So I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you love the cake. Thank you, enjoy. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, tell all of your friends, and let me know below what you'd like to be baking.